The iPad 4 versus an Android tablet, which is the Lenovo Tab 4. Now originally I was going to compare it to the Xiaomi Mi Pad 3, but unfortunately this thing has been discontinued. So with that, we're going to be comparing the iPad to the Tab 4 8 Plus from Lenovo, since right now this is the most powerful Android tablet that I currently have, that is always getting updated, and it currently runs Android 7.1. So then let's go ahead and get started with the unboxing. So I've already unboxed this and I've already reviewed it, and you can watch the video of it right over there, and I'll leave the links in the description below. But basically we got the tablet right here, and it's got a really awesome build quality. Basically we got glass on the front and the back, and an SD card reader, and a whole bunch of awesome things, and two front-firing speakers that cannot be covered while using this thing. It's a pretty awesome tablet, and in my opinion, it's one of the best Android tablets that I've ever laid my hands on. Next up, inside we get some manuals that we're not even going to take a look at. Of course, a charging cable and a charging adapter. That said, this tablet does use a USB Type-C interface, and it does have a headphone jack. Next up, we have the iPad 4, and no, I did not buy this. It's actually my friend's tablet, and they gave me the chance to go ahead and unbox it for them. And basically, it opens up like so. And this is the 32GB model, and that's all you get. There's no SD card slot, there's none of that, and this is the space gray version. Now, it is a bigger tablet, and yes, it is a bigger tablet. I believe it's an 8.9-inch tablet. Next up, we have the lightning cable, which you guys all know, and of course, the charging adapter that everyone is used to. And that's all you get in the package. Pretty much very similar packaging, except it's presented in a nicer way. Alright, so here is the tablet itself. Now, it opens up by taking on the wrapping from the back. So this opens up like so. Alright. And here is the tablet itself. So of course, first impressions, it feels pretty nice in the hand. It's very curved, it's very clean, very polished. You got a big, nice screen. I think it's a 4x3 or a 3x2, I can't remember correctly. And it's got a pretty high resolution display. We got a fingerprint scanner as well as the home button, and overall a pretty nice sleek looking design. I mean, it's an iPad, it's been like this since forever. Of course, we got the space gray edition, which looks pretty nice, and overall it's a matte finish. It's not going to get scratched up easily. Maybe the logo here will. But other than that, we got the camera right here, we got the volume rockers right on the side, a headphone jack on the top, and of course the lightning port on the bottom, where you can also find the bottom firing speakers. And all that's left to do now is to go ahead and put them side by side, and after that we're going to be powering both of them up, testing them out for a week, and comparing them head to head in pretty much every aspect that I can think of. So we're going to be testing out the battery life, we're going to be testing out the screens, the speakers, and the overall user experience. So I've already tested and played around with the Lenovo Tab 4, and all I'll have to do is to actually go ahead, set up the iPad, and use it as my daily driver and see how it goes. So with that said, I'll see you guys in just a bit. Alright, and we are back. So just a heads up, we're not going to go too much into detail in comparing the specs of these things. We're mostly going to be comparing the general user experience when using these things out of the box. So let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, in the intro of the video, I think I made a mistake. I called this the iPad 4. It's actually not. The iPad 4 was a 2012 model, I believe. This is actually just the iPad 9.7-inch 2017 model, because Apple, for whatever reason, they decided to just forget the iPad numbers and just call them with their year models. So this is right now the latest iPad that you can get on the market. It's a 2017 model, and it has 32 gigs. So right now this is going for around 440 Canadian or so, I believe. This thing also the same, about 400. You can always get it on sale with coupons or discounts or flash sales or whatever. This thing has 4 gigs of RAM, this has 2 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and it doesn't matter how much RAM the iPad has because Apple does RAM differently. So applications run differently. They're two different operation systems, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways, so let's see what it feels like to pick up one of these guys. So first of all, Lenovo here, it feels and looks like a pretty nice, sleek looking tablet. It's got glass on both sides. It's also got a flash in the back with a camera. That is actually pretty good. You probably can compare it to this iPad right here. And overall, as you'd guess, it's a fingerprint magnet, just like with the iPad here. Both of these things will be easily filled with fingerprints, and it doesn't take much to find that out. So right here, we have an 8-inch display. It's a 1080p display, it's IPS, and it can get pretty bright and pretty dim, which is pretty nice. That said, this is a 16:10 aspect ratio, so more like 1200p, I believe. The iPad, on the other hand, is a 1440p, I think. I'll have the display specs on the screen here, but this is a 9.7-inch tablet, and it's in the 4:3 or 3:2 aspect ratio, not exactly sure. Now, both of these tablets do have fingerprint scanners, and in my experience, the Lenovo kind of works better for some reason, and although the Lenovo here actually logs in slower, it's actually pretty quick and it does read it, and I do have more consistent results with this fingerprint scanner on the side, which is pretty nice. It's also the home button. That's the volume rocker, and on the top we got a Type-C, a headphone jack, and dual front-facing speakers, which is really nice. And not only that, but these speakers are actually really hard to cover. Even if you hold it like this, even if you actually try to intentionally block the speakers, it's actually really hard because these actual speaker grills are at an angle and they're also very big. So even if you cover half of the speaker grill, you'll still be able to hear the audio, no problem. We'll talk more about these speakers in just a bit here. On the other hand, the iPad here is also the home button, which also happens to be the fingerprint scanner. I'm not getting actually consistent results. If I try to do it really quickly, it doesn't want to do it. Or it just opens up Siri. So it's not very consistent. I might have to redo my Touch ID, but that's that. So the display here, we'll talk more about that in just a bit, but let's take a quick look around it. We got a Space Gray edition right here. We got a shiny logo that's probably gonna get scratched up pretty quickly. A rear-facing microphone, the back camera, 2 volume buttons, and the power button on the top here. And lastly, the launching port and dual bottom firing speakers, which do sound pretty great, except the fact that they are bottom firing speakers, which actually makes the audio feel really awkward and just not right, because one of your ears is going to be left out depending on how you hold your tablet. For example, I hold it like this, and the speakers are on this side, on the right, so my left ear would pretty much just feel left out, and it's not so much of a pleasant experience. Now if you're going to be scrolling through Instagram or whatever, then it might be better because it's going to be more directional, but generally speaking, the speakers on the iPad here, they do sound much better. They have more deep end, and that's all thanks to Apple, how they designed their speakers. They have more room to breathe. They have larger diaphragms for the speakers, so of course you're going to be getting much better audio. Although it has 2 front-facing speakers, and they do sound pretty decent, but the audio does feel like it is a bit processed and boosted when you enable the Dolby Atmos feature, which this thing does have. So you can control the audio, you can change how it sounds like. It's a pretty cool feature, but generally you're just going to have it at one thing, and you're just going to leave it at that. But when it comes to watching videos and comparing these two head-to-head, of course if you're using headphones, it's not going to matter, but when it comes to videos, these speakers on the Lenovo, I would say, would be a much better choice. The speakers are going to be facing you, and overall you're going to have a better time holding this tablet and enjoying more content on it. And that is because the videos that are going to be playing on the iPad are actually going to be about the same size on this tablet. So if you go ahead and open up YouTube, so here we have the same video playing on both tablets, and you can see that the general size of the video is about the same, since mostly the videos are going to be playing, they're going to be 16:9 aspect ratio. And you can see that overall, the iPad actually is just a tiny bit bigger than the Lenovo, but really not by a whole lot. And again, on the Lenovo, it would be a better experience to watch videos on, since the speakers are front-facing, and you got 2 of them on the front. Unlike the iPad, where they sound very weird because one of your ears is going to be left out, since the speakers are bottom firing or side firing if you hold it in a landscape mode. Now you might be asking, which is a better display overall? Well, let me tell you, of course it's going to be the iPad. There's no comparison, there is no competition, the iPad definitely wins. And here is why. There's some things that you don't notice until you actually use an iPad, and things you don't notice until you actually start playing around with it, especially when playing around with the brightness. So the iPad, of course, has much better colors. They're overall much nicer. The viewing angles are amazing. Everything looks nice and crispy, and overall, anything you're gonna be playing on this thing is gonna look pretty awesome. Now, one thing that I really liked and really enjoyed about this tablet is that when you change the tablet's brightness, your eyes will feel pretty comfortable looking at the tablet at all brightness levels, which is something that you really don't see on any other device. And I've compared this tablet to the Samsung S8 Plus, the Xiaomi Mi Pad 3, Xiaomi laptop, my phone, my LG V20, my G4. I pretty much compared it to a whole lot of devices that I have laying around, and I can tell you right now, when changing the brightness, even when you change the tablet's brightness to the highest level, you are still not going to experience any eye fatigue. At least right away. The way that this display actually displays brightness, it is just very comfortable to look at with your own eyes. It is hard to explain, but basically your eye doesn't feel like it wants to look away from the tablet. You can be in a pitch black room, which I don't really recommend, and have this brightness all the way up, and it's actually not going to be that bad. Again, I don't recommend doing that, but that is something you can actually do. Another nice thing you'll experience when you change the brightness is that colors themselves don't actually change a whole lot. With other tablets and phones, when you change the brightness levels, you'll see the colors wash out. Here, it's actually more gradual and more acceptable, and it's, again, more enjoyable. Overall, it's just a better display. There is no comparison when comparing an iPad display or an iPhone display to anything else. But first, here's an audio sample of both tablets. Alright, so now let's go ahead and finally talk about the software and storage. So again, this is 32 gigs, this is 64 gigs, and it has an SD card slot that you can install an XD card and expand the storage even more for a much cheaper price. The user experience on the Android tablet is overall pretty good. I really haven't had any crashes or problems like that. Everything ran smoothly. And of course, when you run something like Android 7.1, you're gonna have the option to run dual apps in split screen with this tablet, and it's the most amazing thing that you can do on the tablet, and it's really useful and handy, and it's kind of a must-have feature that an iPad should also have at one point. So for example, I could have YouTube running, then I could go ahead and hold and drag it to one side, and it would ask me what I want for the other side, 9GB or Reddit or some Word document, and I can have a video playing on one side, and be browsing at the same time. And if you're wondering, yes, you can actually control both of them at the exact same time, which is pretty awesome. So this is a feature that is the biggest selling point for me when it comes to a tablet, especially in this kind of form factor. Dual tasking like this, it's just a pretty awesome feature, and I really like it, and you should definitely look into it more. With the Snapdragon 625, gaming on this thing is overall pretty great. Haven't actually had any issues running any games. Asphalt and Mortal Kombat, they run smoothly with no problems, and with the iPad, they run at constant 60 FPS, so there are no drops in frames with the iPad, at least from what I've seen. It can run everything at the max settings, no problem. This one, maybe it'll dial down just a tiny bit, but everything runs really good, and overall, you're not going to be missing out on much when playing games on both tablets. Of course, you always got customizability on Android, and you can do whatever you want on an Android tablet, especially if you go ahead and root the tablet, which I really don't know if we can right now. This tablet does get constant updates. I do get like an update every 2 weeks or so. I really don't know what the updates are. They're most likely security patches. It doesn't tell you what the updates are, but they are there. So now battery life, on the other hand, it's about the same. Surprisingly, it's about the same. The iPad might win just a tiny bit. If you guys remember, I got about 6 to 7 hours of video playback at full brightness on this tablet, and with the iPad here, I got about generally the same thing. That said, I didn't have this tablet always on 100% brightness. The tablet here is brighter, but generally I got about 8 hours of battery life. And you lose about 8% per hour, which is pretty cool. But yeah, overall, when it comes to battery life, both these tablets generally will get you throughout the whole day. Now, when it comes to the iPad, believe it or not, it has some crashes. Basically, if you go ahead and launch GarageBand, which is something that you probably want to launch and try out when you have an iPad, which is a big plus when it comes to an iPad. You have a bunch of apps that are installed that are pretty cool. But yeah, as you have saw, it just simply crashes and I cannot get it to launch. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and restart in just a bit. I just wanted to keep it like this to let you guys know and show you what I've experienced, but the iPad isn't really as perfect as it's supposed to be, and I really don't know exactly why this is. And you can see all these apps are just simply crashing. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and just close all these apps that I have here. Maybe that's causing the problem. It shouldn't be, because why would it? It's supposed to be a user-friendly tablet. Here we go. So all those apps are closed. Let's go ahead and open up something. GarageBand, and yep, it just crashes. So let's go ahead and restart it and see what happens. All right, so for example, I cannot open up the GarageBand right now because it wants to connect to the internet. And something that I noticed on this tablet is it kind of takes forever to actually connect to my network when I first turn it on. And you can see that it is still not connected, and you can see that it is still not connected to the network. It's got Bluetooth, but I have to go manually to the Wi-Fi settings. And this is the kind of stuff that you don't expect an iPad to have issues with, which, as you can see, it definitely has issues with. And something that really annoyed me when it came to the iPad, especially out of the box, of course, once you settle down, it's going to be all fine, but once you turn it on, but the Touch ID and Apple ID and all that stuff, it's actually just really cumbersome, especially if there's something wrong. But once you're in, you should be good to go. So GarageBand should launch, and nope. It does not launch. So there you go. And of course, if I wanted to fix those problems, I would have to actually call Apple once again, which I have done. It took about 15 minutes to get my Touch ID working, but in the end, although they got it working, I had to actually go ahead and just log in on my other account because the first account is just really messed up. Apparently a bunch of spam accounts have tried to log in on my account and I couldn't get in, so it was causing problems. So I logged in on the other account. It worked fine, except the fact that I am still having issues with things like GarageBand is not launching. Wi-Fi is not connecting right out of the box. I have to go manually and tell it to connect to my Wi-Fi network. You can expect more problems to come up when using Touch ID and Apple ID, at least in my experience. Of course, your mileage may vary. That is how my experience went Really, I never had an issue when it came to an Android tablet. I just log in with my Gmail account and I'm good to go right off the bat. No problems whatsoever. With the iPad, as you can see, there are a couple problems that come with Apple ID and Touch ID, and that is just how my experience went with them. Now, of course, I could try and spend a day figuring out what's going on, call Apple, and figure out all this stuff, but I really don't have time for it, and I really have to return this tablet back. So again, this is just a general video to show you guys what it is like to be using these things. They both have their ups and downs, but I definitely like the dual tasking mode and the dual front-facing speakers and the extra storage that you get on the Android tablet here. There's no competition when it comes to the display. It is simply a beautiful display that is very comforting to look at, even at the highest brightness levels, especially in a dark room. And that says a whole lot about the display. It is a beautiful display. Again, if you want to take care of your eyes, get the iPad. If you want to have more function, then get the Android here. And it's definitely much less hassle than the iPad here. If you want generally better movie watching experience, get the Lenovo just for the speakers. But if you're going to be using headphones, get the iPad. But if you're going to be watching videos off your SD card and you want to load a whole bunch of things, run emulators, all that fun stuff, the Android will definitely get you there. Where the iPad, it's a big hassle if you don't do anything. But yeah, generally both of them will get you about the same battery life and will get you throughout the whole day. So which one should I recommend? Personally, I would just go for the Lenovo just because I can multitask and it's Android. So I like Android. I have more freedom. I can do more things. I can customize it and do a whole lot more on this guy. And especially the split screen mode, it is a big feature in my opinion. It is something that I absolutely love. Now, if you are leaning towards the Tab 4, then there's always the Tab 3, which is the previous model. And although it doesn't run Android 7.1, which you do miss out on the split screen mode, it does have dual side firing speakers, which are actually not as good as this one, and definitely not as good as the iPad. But generally, it does have an SD card slot, and overall, if you just want an Android tablet that has a pretty good camera and flash and all the good stuff that comes with Android, which this tablet does have similar specs to this guy. It has the same CPU and everything, so performance-wise, you're not going to miss on much, but it is running Android 6, so you're a bit outdated, but you are getting security updates on this thing as well. I'll leave links for that. I'll leave links for the reviews that I've done for these two tablets. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and get this tablet back to its owner, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I know it has been kind of long and it's kind of all over the place, but I just thought I would just put this video out and see what an iPad is like. And again, I have definitely enjoyed the screen on the iPad. It is just simply stunning, beautiful, and very comforting to look at, which is the biggest thing that I liked about the iPad in my opinion. Again, here's what they look like in the back. And oh yeah, one more thing about heat. Both tablets actually manage heat pretty well. Overall, they're both going to be pretty comfortable to hold. Anyways, that is all for this video. Thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. As always, links will always be in the description below. And yeah, that is all for this video. So thank you all for watching. Hope you have enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, hit the like button and subscribe to content like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, everyone.